Okay, we are back, and we have a pretty decent fight, and this is a pretty exceptional moment in Sim because I would actually rate this dogfight probably the best one I've had in the last month because a lot of the time guys don't really understand any kind of like the mechanics of dogfighting. Like usually people have watched some of the BFM videos, but usually watching those is like it's like having a Lego set but never being able to put it together. Like you can look at the components and be like, yes, I could build something out of this, but most of the time players in Sim really just they just don't. They just don't have the reactions for it. They just don't have the full concept. Now we're going to be fighting Raymond. Raymond's in a P-47M. We're in a Bf.109 K-4. And this is a pretty decent matchup, especially at this altitude, because the higher the 47M goes, the more of an advantage it has. The lower the 109K goes, the more that advantage goes away. And because we are fighting at high altitude, this fight is not nearly as one-sided as it would be in like a classic dueling setup. Because of the vertical space that we have, because we have the ability to go down even further, it means that something like the P-47M can potentially utilize its dive speed and utilize its dive brakes to force some kind of overshoot and usually go on a much longer, more prolonged defensive position as well. Now, the first thing I do is I try to go underneath Raymond and I try to force him up, trying to force him to merge vertically and basically stall himself out above me and in my guns. Now, he kind of denies me that just by kind of flying straight ahead and fly straight away. In reality, from the position where he was at, when he came in with more energy, I think he could have dove below me and then played like a lag pursuit trajectory while draining me of my speed while remaining outside of my guns. Now, I say that in theory, that is a very hard kind of trajectory style. It's a very hard style of fighting to learn, and if you're not very experienced in dueling, it's one that's really easy to mess up. It's also kind of why I usually just go to the default, dive below the other guy, and then pull up kind of style of merge. Now, he goes out, he doesn't get enough separation, but he gets just enough to pull back into a head-on, and that forces me to dodge. And as I dodge, I'm trying to go vertically, and I'm trying to stall him out, but in doing so, I have given him 2 shot opportunities. I've given him one in the head-on, which lost me some position because I had to dodge it. And then as I went up, I gave him a second. But I trade those 2 shots for a third shot that's a reasonably good follow-up, and I think that the fight should have ended right there, but it does not. And because I have more speed in this scissors here, I end up shooting out in front of him, but my counter to that is basically to go up in a way that does not point his nose onto me. Now, Raymond's fairly new to dueling, so this is a huge improvement over where he used to be, but because I have no life, I'm pretty decent at this. But he recognizes that he's lost position, and he utilizes this vertical space, and he's going to attempt to force basically an energy reset. And as I rip my flaps off, this is an unforced error. This hurts my plane overall, but it is not really changing anything right now. But in this downward spiral, if I get too fast, my elevators will compress, and his will not. And as he cuts back here, he gets a better position. He gets something he can fight from. And without these clouds here, if we don't lose sight of each other, he is in a spot where he can work from it. But because of the clouds, because of the confusion, he does lose sight. And he ends up giving us position back. And we are starting behind him. Now he pulls back into the head-on. He's going to force kind of the same thing as before, where he's going to try to force me to dodge. And I see that it's coming, so I kind of play a little bit more conservatively. And we're back in the same situation where he is going for an attack, and I am trying to deny it. And the way I'm denying it is basically I'm putting the nose at his tail and turning flat. I'm trying to force him into some kind of line where he has to come up to me, and he has to bleed his energy, but he does not get a shot. He notices this, and he's like, okay, cool, I'm out of energy. I'm not going to play your game. I'm not going to play the low speed fight. I'm not going to play the low speed fight at a disadvantage. I'm going to dive down. I'm going to create some separation again and try to change it up. And this is one of the things that works pretty good in the 47. It's one of these things that works pretty good against most players because most players don't merge well. And if you can just force them to re-merge over and over again, There's a chance that 2 out of 3 times they mess it up so badly that you're like, okay, cool, I have the shot here, and I'm going to punish you for it. But we are above them. We have more energy, and we understand how to utilize the 109 and utilize the power to weight ratio, and hopefully not get fragged in the head on. Now we think we have the angle on him, but he pulls in the last second, and we dodge. And we've been pretty clear that we don't want the head on. We don't have the good head on configuration. He does, but as this fight gets lower, as there begins to be no altitude below to trade for speed, it means that he doesn't really have a good escape route. And the thing is, with the 109 against the 47M, once it gets to low altitude, the 47M does not realistically outrun the K-4. So even if he did try to separate earlier on, unless he's going to run straight back to his airfield, this is potentially one of the logical conclusions of this fight. Anyways, overall, not bad. He made attacks. He pressured me. I think with a little more finesse, I think I would lose this one.